Chosen one. What time did you wake up this morning just to keep going? How long did you work today? How heavy was the pressure on your shoulders? How tight did money feel in your chest? God knows. Every early morning, every late night, every silent prayer you never spoke out loud. Yes, you have tried more than most, and heaven has been watching the entire time. Chosen one, you are not here by accident. You did not stumble onto this message. This moment was scheduled by heaven, aligned by divine timing, and released to you because your spirit is ready. You are standing at the edge of a supernatural breakthrough. What felt like delay was preparation. What felt like injustice was refinement. And what felt like silence was God positioning you for reward. The word says in Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3 that the vision waits for an appointed time, but when it comes, it will not delay. Chosen one, this is that appointed time. God is about to reward your persistence with prosperity. Not symbolic blessing, not empty comfort, but real, tangible, heaven-backed provision. Wealth that is no longer just money, but proof that heaven stood with you when no one else did. If this message resonates, subscribe now, because this channel is for the chosen. And comment 727 if you agree that you have endured, you have stayed faithful, and you are ready to receive. Make a promise to yourself to watch until the end. What you carried in silence is about to be answered in abundance. Chosen one. There comes a moment in every life when the questions get louder than the answers. You begin to wonder whether what you are walking through is destiny or mistake, divine testing or personal failure. You ask yourself if it is fate that shaped this path or your own choices that led you here. And yet, no matter how many times you replay the story, one truth remains: there has always been a reason you kept going, even when you could not explain it, even when you did not fully understand how. There was something inside you that refused to quit. That was not stubbornness. That was not habit. That was the mark of being chosen. Chosen one life is not a smooth road for those who carry calling. It is a journey marked by storms, sharp turns, and long stretches where the destination disappears from view. At every milestone you are tested with the same question: will you retreat or will you advance? How do you keep your footing when everything feels unstable? How do you move forward when the days are heavy and the nights feel endless? I have stood in those places myself, where effort feels invisible and progress feels mocked by delay. And I learned something sacred in those seasons. Confusion is not a signal to stop. It is often the doorway before clarity. If you are listening to this while battling uncertainty, while feeling like a soldier in the middle of life's battlefield, hear this carefully. The struggle you are in is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of formation. Every life that carries weight is first forged under pressure. There are no wasted seasons for the chosen. There are only seasons of refining. Just as iron is shaped in fire, the soul is shaped in endurance. And only those willing to be refined can carry what is coming next. Chosen one history is filled with people who were misunderstood before they were recognized, delayed before they were elevated. When you study the lives of those who left a mark on the world, you will notice a pattern. There was no pain-free path. There were years of obscurity, years of rejection, years where the world offered no applause and no validation. Yet those years did not destroy them. They prepared them. Life does not break the chosen. It tempers them. I remember a season in my own life when every door I touched seemed to close. Work ended abruptly. Plans collapsed. Directions I thought were right suddenly felt wrong. I questioned my own discernment. I questioned God in silence. And yet, looking back now, I can see that what felt like loss was actually separation. Heaven was removing me from places that could no longer hold what I was becoming. That is what delay does. It separates you from environments that would have limited your future. Chosen one, only persistence can build the armor required for the next level. Comfort never produces strength. Ease never produces authority. It is endurance that shapes a new self within you. Whether you are moving with the current or pushing against the tide, your persistence is not going unnoticed. Heaven records what the world ignores, every quiet decision to keep going. Every morning you rose when giving up felt easier. Every moment you chose integrity over shortcuts. These moments accumulate. They carry spiritual weight. Youth often feels unstable because it is a season of identity formation. Everyone drifts at some point, caught between dreams and reality, torn between what feels safe and what feels true. You are told to choose what pays well, even if it empties you, or to follow your passion, even if the world warns you it will cost too much. This inner conflict is not weakness. It is the sign of a soul that knows it was made for more than survival. The chosen feel this tension deeply because they were not created to blend in. They were created to align. Chosen one. The confusion you felt about your future was never about lack of ability. It was about timing. Heaven does not rush what must mature. There are skills that can be learned quickly, but wisdom only grows through experience. The uncertainty you carried was shaping discernment. The instability was teaching you to listen inward, not outward. Independence is learned by stepping away from the crowd, even when the crowd feels safer. I have watched many people trade their calling for approval, their truth for comfort. They gained what everyone else had, but lost themselves in the process. The chosen cannot live that way. Even when it costs you jobs, relationships, or reputation, your spirit refuses to cooperate with what feels false. That refusal is holy. It is protection. It is why you were redirected so many times. Heaven was guarding your integrity for what is ahead. When the world rejected you, you were not abandoned. You were being repositioned. When you felt like you were wandering without direction, you were actually being led away from distraction. There are seasons when the most productive thing you can do is become still, to quiet the noise, to return to your inner compass. That is where clarity is born. That is where purpose resurfaces. Chosen one distraction numbs pain, but never heals it. Escaping into noise habits or constant motion only delays the confrontation with truth. But when you learn to sit with yourself, to reflect, to seek wisdom instead of avoidance, something shifts. Peace begins to replace panic. Order returns where chaos once ruled. I learned this the hard way. Running from uncertainty only deepened it. Facing it with stillness dissolved it. There is a sacred law at work. Not every seed sprouts immediately, but every seed planted with persistence carries life. When you continue to sow effort, faith, and obedience, something unseen begins to grow. The world cannot stop what heaven has authorized. When you keep reaching toward the light, no darkness can permanently block your rise. Chosen one. The years that looked empty were not empty. They were underground. Roots were forming. Strength was building. Perspective was deepening. And now something within you is closer to the surface than ever before. The same persistence that kept you alive through uncertainty is about to become the very reason you are elevated. Heaven is not finished with your story. What you endured is about to make sense. And as this understanding begins to settle into your spirit, you may feel a quiet shift within you. That is alignment. That is preparation. That is the signal that you are ready to carry what comes next. Chosen one. There is a season when persistence stops feeling noble and starts feeling exhausting. You wake up and do what must be done, not because it excites you, but because something deeper refuses to let you quit. You keep showing up even when no one is clapping. You keep believing even when results feel delayed. This is the season many people abandon their path, but you did not, and that alone tells heaven something important about you. There were moments when you questioned whether your endurance was being wasted. You saw others move ahead faster, gain recognition quicker, accumulate resources with ease. You wondered why your road seemed steeper, longer, quieter. That question did not come from envy. It came from fatigue, and fatigue does not disqualify you. It reveals how long you have been carrying weight without relief. Chosen one delay does not mean denial. Delay means alignment. Heaven does not release prosperity into a soul that has not learned stewardship through scarcity. What you call waiting was training. What you call struggle was education. The pressure you endured was shaping your capacity to hold what is coming without losing yourself. Many people can receive blessing. Very few can carry it without being changed by it. God is more concerned with who you become than what you receive. I have walked through seasons where I worked harder than ever and earned less than before. Seasons where effort did not equal outcome, where faith was tested daily by bills, responsibilities, and silent prayers. And yet something in those seasons strengthened my discernment. I learned to hear God in the quiet. I learned to measure success differently. I learned that being chosen does not mean being spared. It means being prepared. Chosen. One hardship reveals character faster than comfort ever could. When resources are limited, your values are exposed. When recognition is absent, your motives are purified. When applause is gone, your relationship with truth deepens. This is why heaven allows certain pressures to linger longer than expected. They are not punishment, they are pruning, and pruning is always done for future fruit. You may remember times when you stood at crossroads unsure which direction was right. You weighed practicality against purpose, security against calling, approval against authenticity. Each choice felt heavy because the stakes were high. The chosen do not make light decisions. They feel the weight of consequence deeply. That weight is not fear, it is awareness. Chosen one. You were never meant to live on autopilot. You were designed to move with intention. That is why confusion disturbed you so deeply. It was your spirit signaling that something mattered. Many people numb that signal. They choose distraction, addiction, constant movement, or validation from others. You chose reflection. You chose stillness, even when it was uncomfortable. That choice saved you more times than you realize. There were moments when you felt pressure to conform, to compromise your inner truth for external acceptance. The world rewards imitation quickly, but heaven rewards authenticity eventually. When you refused to sell your values for temporary gain, you delayed your reward but preserved your soul. That preservation is priceless. Wealth gained at the cost of identity always demands repayment later. You were spared that debt. Chosen one. Obscurity is not failure, it is protection. There are gifts that cannot be developed in the spotlight. There are callings that require silence to mature. You were hidden not because you lacked value, but because what you carry required time to grow strong. When seeds are planted too shallow, they sprout quickly and die early. Deep roots take longer, but they survive storms. I remember feeling invisible during seasons when I knew I was giving my best. That invisibility taught me humility without humiliation. It stripped away the need for external affirmation. It forced me to anchor my worth internally, not situationally. That anchoring is what allows a person to rise without becoming arrogant and prosper without becoming empty. Chosen one, heaven watches how you handle the unseen, how you treat people who cannot benefit you, how you speak when no one is listening, how you respond when things do not go your way. These moments shape your spiritual credit. Prosperity is not released randomly. It is assigned. It is directed. It follows alignment, not ambition. There is a reason your conscience stayed active while others learned to silence theirs. There is a reason shortcuts never sat well with you. There is a reason you felt restless when success came at the cost of integrity. That restlessness is the voice of calling. It protects you from becoming wealthy but broken, from gaining the world and losing your center. Chosen one, pain has a way of stripping away illusion. It reveals what matters and what does not. It exposes false identities and strengthens true ones. You did not survive your hardest seasons by accident. You survived because there was purpose attached to your persistence. Each time you chose to keep going, you were voting for your future self. The nights you spent questioning your worth were not wasted. They deepened your compassion. The times you were misunderstood sharpened your discernment. The losses you endured refined your priorities. Nothing was random. Nothing was meaningless. Heaven does not waste suffering. It transforms it. You may not have seen the progress while it was happening, but something within you has changed. Your reactions are different. Your tolerance for chaos is lower. Your desire for peace is stronger. Your standards are clearer. These shifts are evidence of growth. They signal readiness. Chosen one, prosperity is not only about money. It is about expansion. Expansion of influence. Expansion of peace. Expansion of capacity. When God rewards persistence, He does so holistically. He restores what was depleted. He multiplies what was faithful. He elevates what was hidden. There will be a moment when you look back and realize the delay saved you from paths that would have cost you more than they gave. You will see how timing protected you from alliances that were not aligned, opportunities that were premature, and success that would have crushed you without preparation. Gratitude will replace confusion. For now, trust that what you carried in silence is being weighed in heaven. Trust that your endurance has not gone unnoticed. Trust that alignment is forming even if evidence is still subtle. The ground beneath you is shifting quietly, and when movement begins, it will be unmistakable. Chosen one, stay present, stay anchored, stay faithful to what you know is true. The same persistence that sustained you through hardship is about to support you through increase. Chosen one, there is a quiet moment that comes before elevation, a moment where everything feels still but charged. It is the calm that confuses people who do not understand spiritual timing. On the surface, it looks like nothing is happening. Internally, everything is aligning. This is where you are now. And if you listen closely, you can feel it. Not excitement, not anxiety, but a deep, settled knowing that something is about to shift. You have lived long enough in survival mode to recognize the difference between wishful thinking and spiritual readiness. What you are sensing now is not imagination. It is alignment. Your spirit has matured. Your reactions have slowed. Your discernment has sharpened. You no longer chase everything that sparkles. You no longer panic when things go quiet. That is not apathy. That is authority forming. Chosen one, heaven does not elevate people who are still trying to prove themselves. It elevates those who have nothing left to prove. The hunger you once had for validation has been replaced with clarity. The urgency to be seen has been replaced with peace. This is important because prosperity magnifies whatever is already inside you. God waits until the noise settles before releasing increase. Otherwise, the blessing becomes a burden. I remember a season when I thought I was ready simply because I was tired of struggling. But readiness is not frustration. Readiness is stability. I had to learn that wanting relief is not the same as being prepared for responsibility. When that lesson finally settled into me, I stopped begging for doors to open and started trusting timing. That trust changed everything. Chosen one alignment does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like restraint, like walking away from something that could have helped you financially but would have cost you spiritually. Sometimes it looks like patience when you could have forced momentum. Sometimes it looks like obedience when logic argues otherwise. These moments feel small, but they carry enormous weight. Heaven is precise. It does not rush what must be sustained. The reason your life felt delayed is because it was being arranged. People, resources, opportunities, and timing were being synchronized beyond your control. You could not have forced this. You could only survive until it arrived. And you did. Chosen one. The pressure you endured trained you to hear God without noise. When everything was stripped down to essentials, you learned to discern between fear and intuition, between urgency and instruction. That discernment is what protects prosperity. Money flows easily to many. Wisdom does not. You were being taught wisdom through experience, not theory. There were times when you felt alone, not because no one was around, but because no one understood you. That isolation was not rejection, it was distinction. When a calling is uncommon, companionship becomes selective. Not everyone can walk with you into what you are becoming. Some relationships cannot survive elevation. That does not make them bad. It means they were seasonal. Chosen one grief often accompanies growth. You grieved versions of yourself that could no longer exist. You grieved relationships that could not follow you. You grieved dreams that needed to die so truer ones could be born. That grief softened you without weakening you. It gave you empathy without fragility. That balance is rare. Prosperity without empathy creates arrogance. Authority without compassion creates distance. God develops both in you before expanding your influence. That is why your journey required emotional depth. You were being shaped into someone who could bless others without forgetting what it feels like to struggle. You may have noticed that your prayers changed over time. They became less desperate and more surrendered, less demanding and more receptive. That shift is not loss of faith, it is maturity. When you trust someone deeply, you stop explaining yourself. You rest. That rest is not inactivity, it is alignment with divine flow. Chosen one. There is a difference between chasing opportunity and being positioned for it. Chasing exhausts you, positioning steadies you. You have been positioned. The patience you developed is now part of your authority. The restraint you practiced is now part of your strength. The humility you learned is now part of your leadership. I have seen people receive sudden increase without inner preparation. It amplified their fears, their insecurities, their unresolved wounds. What they thought would free them ended up controlling them. That is why God protects His chosen through delay. He does not withhold to punish, He withholds to preserve. Chosen one, the quiet confidence you carry now is evidence of transformation. You no longer need constant reassurance. You no longer measure your worth by comparison. You no longer rush decisions out of fear of missing out. These are signs that your internal foundation is strong enough to support external expansion. Prosperity is approaching you in a form that matches who you have become, not who you used to be. It will align with your values. It will respect your boundaries. It will expand your capacity to give, not just consume. It will feel different from what you imagined because you are different now. There is also a clarity forming around what no longer belongs in your life. Old habits feel uncomfortable. Old environments feel restrictive. Old conversations feel shallow. This is not judgment, it is growth. When your frequency changes, alignment changes. You are not losing anything of value. You are shedding what cannot go forward with you. Chosen one. Heaven does not announce every move it makes. Some shifts happen quietly until they are irreversible. When the door opens, it will feel natural, not forced. You will recognize it not by excitement alone, but by peace. That peace is confirmation. Trust the process that shaped you. Trust the discipline that steadied you. Trust the silence that refined you. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are aligned, and alignment always precedes reward. Chosen one. There comes a point when alignment begins to manifest outwardly, not all at once, but through subtle confirmations that only a prepared spirit can recognize. It may arrive as an unexpected conversation, a door reopening that once slammed shut, or a calm confidence replacing the anxiety that used to rule your decisions. These are not coincidences. They are signals. Heaven speaks softly before it moves loudly. You have learned through experience to distinguish between impulse and instruction. In earlier seasons, urgency pushed you. Now clarity guides you. That shift is evidence that your inner world has stabilized. Prosperity does not descend into chaos. It settles into order. What is forming around you is not sudden luck, it is measured release. God does not overwhelm the chosen, He entrusts them. Chosen one. When elevation approaches, responsibility increases before resources do. You may feel an added weight, not pressure, but awareness. A sense that your choices matter more now. That is because they do. Influence is approaching, and influence amplifies consequence. Heaven ensures your discernment is strong before your reach expands. I remember the moment when I realized my words carried more weight than before. Not because people praised me, but because they listened. That listening was not earned overnight. It was cultivated through years of consistency, integrity, and restraint. Influence is not granted for charisma. It is granted for credibility, and credibility is built in obscurity. Chosen one. Your credibility was forged when no one was watching, when you chose truth over advantage, when you chose patience over manipulation, when you chose growth over comfort. These choices seemed small at the time, but they were seeds, and seeds, when watered with persistence, produce harvest. There is a sacred exchange happening now. What you gave up in earlier seasons, ease, recognition, shortcuts, is being returned in a form that sustains rather than seduces. You are not being rewarded with noise, but with stability. Not with spectacle, but with substance. This is how heaven compensates the faithful. Prosperity that lasts does not arrive as a flood, it arrives as flow. A steady movement that aligns with your values and expands your capacity to serve. You may notice that your desires have matured. What once excited you now feels shallow. What once intimidated you now feels manageable. This internal recalibration is essential. It ensures that when increase comes, it feels natural, not overwhelming. Chosen one. There is also a purification happening in your expectations. You no longer seek wealth as proof of worth. You seek it as a tool for impact. That distinction changes everything. When wealth becomes purpose-driven, heaven supplies it without resistance. Alignment removes friction. I have seen what happens when people receive resources before they understand stewardship. They become controlled by what was meant to support them. You were spared that outcome. Scarcity taught you discipline. Delay taught you gratitude. Uncertainty taught you dependence on God rather than systems. These lessons now serve you. Chosen one, You are entering a phase where your past no longer defines your possibilities. The labels once placed on you, too slow, too different, too idealistic, are losing their authority. Not because they were proven wrong publicly, but because they no longer resonate internally. Authority begins within. When you stop agreeing with limitation, it loses power. You may also feel called to release resentment. Not because what happened was acceptable, but because carrying it would contaminate what is coming. Prosperity requires clarity. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it is choosing freedom. When you let go, you make room. Chosen one. Heaven is precise in its timing. What arrives now would not have survived earlier versions of you. You were not delayed, you were protected. The patience you practiced was not passive, it was preparatory. It trained you to hold without hoarding, to lead without dominating, to receive without guilt. As opportunities begin to align, you may notice they come with peace rather than pressure. You will not need to convince yourself. You will not need to chase. What is meant for you recognizes you. That recognition is mutual. When something aligns, your spirit settles. There will be moments when you are tempted to rush to secure what is coming before it feels certain. Resist that urge. Trust the flow. Force disrupts alignment. Patience preserves it. You have already proven you can endure. Now you are learning how to receive. Chosen one. Remember, this prosperity is not the destination. It is the instrument. The true reward is capacity, the ability to sustain, to build, to bless, to remain whole while expanding. That capacity is what God has been developing in you all along. I want you to notice how your inner dialogue has changed. The voice that once questioned your worth has softened. The fear that once dominated your decisions has quieted. In its place is a steady assurance. That assurance is not arrogance. It is grounded confidence. It is the result of alignment. You are no longer waiting for permission to step into your calling. You are recognizing readiness. That recognition is subtle but powerful. It changes how you walk into rooms, how you speak, how you decide. Authority does not announce itself. It is felt. Chosen one. The next phase of your life will require trust, not blind trust, but informed trust. Trust built on experience, discernment, and surrender. You have learned that control is an illusion. Alignment is the reality. When you align, provision follows. As this truth settles into you, allow yourself to breathe. You are not behind. You are not lacking. You are not forgotten. You are positioned. And positioning is the final step before release. Stay grounded. Stay attentive. Stay faithful to what you have learned. The same God who sustained you in scarcity is now guiding you into increase with wisdom, with purpose, and with peace. Chosen one. There is a sacred transition that happens when faith moves from endurance into expectation. For a long time, your faith was about surviving, about holding on, about not giving up when everything around you suggested you should. But now something deeper is being activated within you. You are no longer just enduring, you are preparing to receive. And that shift requires a new posture of the heart. Many people can suffer. Few can receive without guilt. Few can stand in blessing without feeling they must apologize for it. But you are learning that prosperity is not a betrayal of your past pain. It is the confirmation that your pain was not wasted. God does not reward endurance to mock it. He rewards it to redeem it. Chosen one. You were trained in restraint so you would not misuse abundance. You learned to budget energy, emotions, and resources when they were scarce. That discipline did not disappear. It became part of you. Now when increase approaches, it does not frighten you. It finds structure. It finds order. It finds wisdom already in place. There were seasons when you prayed simply to make it through the day. Seasons when your requests were small because your strength was limited. Heaven heard every one of those prayers. But heaven also saw what those seasons produced in you: humility without self-hatred, patience without passivity, obedience without fear. Those qualities are rare, they are valuable, and they attract trust from above. Chosen one prosperity does not only test character, it reveals it. That is why God waited. Not because you were unworthy, but because you were becoming trustworthy. Trust is built through consistency, through showing up even when no reward is visible, through choosing the right thing when the easy thing is available. You did that more times than you realize. I remember the internal conflict when things first began to shift for me. Part of me expected relief. Another part feared responsibility. Because blessing changes the questions you ask. In scarcity, you ask, how do I survive? In prosperity, you ask, how do I steward? That transition requires maturity. You are ready for that now. Chosen one, you may notice that your definition of success has changed. You no longer measure it by comparison. You no longer crave validation the way you once did. You are more interested in sustainability than speed, in impact rather than image. That shift is not accidental. It is alignment with the kind of prosperity that lasts. There is also a healing taking place around your relationship with money. Scarcity taught you caution. Delay taught you patience. Now abundance will teach you generosity without depletion. You are not being called to hoard. You are being called to flow. Flow requires trust. Trust that provision is not a one-time event, but a relationship with heaven. Chosen one, you are not stepping into prosperity alone. You carry with you the lessons, the empathy, and the wisdom gained from every hard season. That means when God increases you, others will benefit. Your blessing will not isolate you. It will position you to uplift. That is why your journey had to be deep. Shallow paths do not produce sustainable fruit. You may feel moments of hesitation as things begin to open. A quiet voice asking, "Is this really for me?" That voice is not doubt. It is awe. It is the realization that something you waited for is now within reach. Allow yourself to receive without shrinking. You do not dishonor humility by accepting what God provides. Chosen one, remember this, you did not arrive here by chance. Every closed door redirected you. Every delay refined you. Every disappointment clarified your priorities. You are not the same person who first began this journey. You have depth now, discernment, balance. That growth is the true wealth that prepares you for material increase. As resources begin to expand, you will notice new responsibilities emerging. Not burdens, but invitations. Invitations to lead, to build, to create, to serve at a higher level. Prosperity always brings opportunity for influence. Influence requires integrity. You have that. It was forged when no one was watching. Chosen one, do not rush to announce what God is doing. Let it unfold. Let it stabilize. There is power in quiet confidence. There is protection in discretion. What is meant to last does not need constant explanation. It will speak for itself in time. You are also learning to trust your inner peace as guidance. When something aligns, it does not agitate your spirit. It grounds it. That peace is not complacency. It is confirmation. Follow it. It will keep you aligned as doors open. I want you to notice how fear no longer dominates your imagination. You still feel responsibility, but not panic. You still plan, but not obsessively. This emotional regulation is part of your readiness. Prosperity requires a nervous system that can remain calm under expansion. You are developing that capacity now. Chosen one, wealth that comes from God does not steal your sleep. It does not demand your soul. It does not require you to become someone you are not. It integrates with who you truly are. That is the kind of prosperity approaching you. As you move forward, resist the temptation to measure progress by speed alone. Growth that is healthy is often steady. Sustainable expansion does not rush. It builds. You are not late. You are aligned. Allow gratitude to anchor you, not anxiety. Gratitude keeps your heart open. Anxiety closes it. You have endured enough tension. This season invites trust. Chosen one. What you are stepping into is not just reward, it is responsibility wrapped in grace. It is provision paired with purpose. It is prosperity that honors the path you walked to get here. Stand tall, breathe deeply, receive freely. You did not endure in vain. And what comes next will reflect not only your persistence, but the wisdom you gained through it. Chosen one. There is a sacred responsibility that comes with fulfillment, and it is not what most people expect. When the reward finally arrives, it does not announce itself with noise. It settles in quietly, asking a simple question: will you trust me here as much as you trusted me there? Many people believe faith is hardest in lack, but faith is often tested most deeply in increase. You are stepping into that moment now. You spent years learning how to lean on God when nothing made sense. You learned how to pray without answers, how to move without clarity, how to believe without evidence. That kind of faith reshapes a person. Now the posture shifts. Faith is no longer about survival. It becomes about stewardship, about staying aligned when things finally begin to work. Chosen one. You are discovering that abundance requires just as much spiritual awareness as scarcity. When provision flows, distractions increase, voices multiply, opportunities present themselves rapidly. Not everything that opens is assigned. Discernment becomes essential. That is why heaven trained you slowly. Speed without discernment destroys what patience built. I have watched people lose themselves the moment things improved. They abandoned the disciplines that carried them through hardship. They stopped listening inward. They trusted momentum more than guidance. You are being warned gently, not because you will fail, but because what you carry is valuable. Your prosperity is meant to bless, not consume you. Chosen one. Remember the quiet seasons. Remember who you became when no one was watching. That version of you is your anchor. Do not abandon them now. The humility you developed was not temporary, it was foundational. Let it remain as success grows around you. You may notice that your tolerance for chaos is lower than before. That is not weakness, that is wisdom. Your spirit now recognizes what disturbs alignment. You no longer need to endure unnecessary noise. You are allowed to protect your peace. Prosperity does not require exhaustion. It requires clarity. Chosen one. There will be moments when you are tempted to prove yourself to justify why you deserve what you have received. Release that urge. You do not owe explanations for answered prayers. You do not need to defend divine favor. Your responsibility is not to convince others. It is to remain faithful. As resources increase, so will your impact. People will watch how you move, how you speak, how you choose. Influence carries visibility even when you do not seek it. Let your consistency speak louder than your words. Let your character remain unchanged by circumstance. That stability will protect you. Chosen one. Wealth given by God carries instruction. Listen closely. There will be moments when generosity is required, not because you have excess, but because obedience unlocks flow. Giving does not deplete what is divinely supplied. It circulates it. Flow stagnates when hoarded. It multiplies when trusted. You are also being invited into rest. True rest is not inactivity, it is confidence. Confidence that you no longer need to strive to be seen. Confidence that provision is not fragile. Confidence that alignment sustains itself when honored. Rest keeps you from making decisions out of fear. Chosen one. The discipline you developed in waiting will now serve you in abundance. You learned how to pause, how to reflect, how to listen. Those skills are rare in a world addicted to speed. They will keep you grounded as your world expands. There may be moments when old insecurities resurface, whispering that this season will not last. That voice comes from memory, not prophecy. You survived instability, so your nervous system remembers it. But your spirit knows better now. You are not returning to lack. You are moving forward with wisdom. Chosen one, allow joy to return without suspicion. Allow peace to settle without guilt. You do not dishonor past suffering by enjoying present provision. You honor it by living fully. Gratitude transforms blessing into legacy. As you walk forward, remain attentive to alignment. When something pulls you away from your center, pause. When something demands compromise, step back. Prosperity that requires you to abandon yourself is not heaven sent. The right opportunities will respect your values. I want you to notice how your sense of identity has stabilized. You are no longer defined by what you lack or what you achieve. You know who you are. That self-knowledge is powerful. It prevents pride and protects humility. It allows you to lead without dominating and to succeed without isolating. Chosen one. Your journey was never just about you. It was about what you would become capable of carrying. You can now hold responsibility without resentment influence, without ego provision, without fear. That is maturity. That is readiness. Heaven rewards persistence, not simply with things, but with trust. Trust that you can manage what is given. Trust that you will not forget where you came from. Trust that you will remain aligned when others lose themselves. That trust is evident in your life now. As this season unfolds, stay close to God. Not out of desperation, but out of relationship. You no longer need to chase His attention. You have it. Remain attentive, remain humble, remain grateful. Chosen one, you endured longer than most. You remained faithful when quitting would have been easier. You held your integrity when compromise promised relief. That persistence has now become a foundation for prosperity that lasts. What you are stepping into will feel different because it is different. It carries peace instead of pressure, stability instead of anxiety, purpose instead of noise. Receive it with open hands and a grounded heart. You are not just being rewarded, you are being entrusted, and you are ready. Chosen one, as this message comes to rest in your spirit, take a moment and breathe. What you have felt stirring inside you is not imagination, and it is not emotional comfort. It is confirmation. Heaven has already begun the transfer. The reward for your persistence is no longer distant, it is in motion. You are standing in your exact kairos moment, the appointed time where what was delayed now aligns. Anointed one, remain faithful, remain grounded. Do not rush ahead of grace, and do not doubt what God has already approved. What is about to manifest will come with peace, clarity, and purpose. You will recognize it not by noise, but by the quiet assurance in your spirit that says, "This is it." Stay aligned with the flow of the anointing and let gratitude prepare your heart for what is next. I declare over you strength for this new season, wisdom to steward what is coming, and humility to remain centered as heaven elevates you. What you endured was not in vain. What you carried in silence is now being answered in fullness. If this word settled deep within you, stay connected to this space created for the chosen. You may gently subscribe to walk this path together, and if you feel led, leave a comment with your city, a sign that you are present, aligned and ready. Go forward in peace, chosen one. The reward has begun.